It was a Wednesday morning in early March. Sylvia was standing at her kitchen counter, 2 cups of coffee in front of her, and she could not remember pouring the second one. Her brother David was sitting at the table behind her. He had not taken off his coat. The doctor had called the day before. The words had been careful. Moderate cognitive decline, increasing risk at home. We should start the conversation about higher level of care. Sylvia and David had been sitting with those words for 14 hours. They had not really spoken about them yet. They had driven over to each other. They had hugged at the front door. They had walked into the kitchen. And now they were here, with 2 cups of coffee. And the look that two siblings give each other when they both already know. David finally said it out loud. "It's time, isn't it?" It wasn't a question. This is Stories of Connection. I'm Miriam. Some of you know I lost my mother 4 years ago. Before she passed, my brother and I made the same call Sylvia and David are making this morning. We moved our mother into memory care. It was the right decision. It is still the right decision when I look back at it. But there is a window I almost missed. A window I want you to know about, before someone you love walks through a door you cannot follow them all the way through. This isn't a video about whether to move a parent into memory care. That decision is yours. It is private. It is layered with details no stranger gets to weigh in on. I will not tell you what to do. This is a video about the 6 weeks between deciding and moving. The window most families do not realize they have. The window I almost slept through. If you're sitting in your own kitchen this morning with your own version of that doctor's call still ringing in your ears, this one is for you. Let me take you back into Sylvia's house. Here is what nobody tells you about a memory care decision. The diagnosis does not change your mother overnight. The phone call does not change her. Even signing the paperwork does not change her. What changes her is something quieter. The slow, polite withdrawal of the version of her who can still tell you, in her own words, what her life has been about. That version is still in the house. She is making coffee. She is folding the laundry the way she has folded it for 50 years. She is asking you about your kids. She is mostly herself on most days, in most rooms. But that version has a horizon now. And the horizon has a date on it. The date is the day she moves. Memory care does not take the person away. It changes which version of her you can still reach. The mother who walks into that building on move-in day is not the same mother who will be sitting in that room 6 months later. Both versions are still your mother. Both versions deserve every bit of love you have, but only one of them can answer the questions. This is what I call emotional time blindness, and it does its worst work right here. Your brain tells you, we have time. She still knows me. She still laughs at the same jokes. We can talk about all this later after she is settled. Your brain is wrong. Your brain is always wrong about this. The window is now. The window is short. The window is the most important 6 weeks of conversations your family will ever have. Sylvia had 6 weeks. She did not waste them. She did not turn them into a project or a checklist or a documentary. She did 6 things. 6 conversations with her mother, Margaret, in the rooms where Margaret had lived her life. 6 questions she did not know she had a window to ask. I'm going to walk you through every one of them, where Sylvia sat, what she asked, what Margaret answered, and what each answer revealed that Sylvia had carried her whole life without ever knowing. I want you to have what Sylvia had, because if you are sitting with a decision you know is coming, even one you have not said out loud yet, you have a window too. 2 weeks before the move, on a Saturday, Sylvia drove over with 2 coffees from the place her mother liked. She sat down at Margaret's kitchen table, the same table Sylvia had eaten cereal at when she was 9. The light was coming through the window the way it always had, warm on the left side, cool on the right, the radio playing low on the counter. She had decided in advance to ask the smallest question first. "Mom, walk me through your mornings." Margaret laughed a little. My mornings? They're not that interesting, sweetie. Walk me through them anyway. Margaret held her coffee in both hands and thought about it. Well, I get up at 6:15, or 6:30 if my back is being a pain. I put the kettle on before I do anything else. I open this window above the sink, even in winter, just for a minute, just to feel what kind of day it is. You open the window in winter, just for a minute. How long have you done that? Margaret looked at the window like she was seeing it for the first time in a long time. Since before you were born, since the apartment on Linden Street. There was a fire escape outside the kitchen window. Your father used to climb out there in the summer to smoke. I'd stand at the sink and we'd talk through the screen. I never stopped opening the window in the morning. It was how I said good morning to him for 38 years, even after he was gone. Sylvia had to put her coffee down. She had grown up in this kitchen. She had watched her mother open this window 1,000 times. She had thought it was about the cat, or the smell of bacon, or some quirk of an old house. It had been a 38-year conversation with her father. Her mother had been having that conversation in front of her every morning for Sylvia's entire life. And Sylvia had never once asked. That was conversation one. The next visit was an afternoon in Margaret's living room. Sylvia had pulled out the photo album from the bottom shelf, the green one, the one with the cracked spine. They were sitting on the couch. Margaret had her reading glasses on. Sylvia turned the page. Mom, tell me about the friends you've outlived. Margaret was quiet for a moment. That's a hard question, honey. I know, she named them slowly. Donna, who she had worked with at the bank. Patricia from church, who had passed 2 summers ago. And then she stopped on a photograph at the back of the album. A young woman in a sundress, leaning against a chain-link fence, laughing at the camera, Eleanor. I don't know that name, Mom. Margaret traced the edge of the photo with her finger. Eleanor was my best friend from the time I was 11 until she died. She was 26. We grew up across the street from each other in Cleveland. She was the maid of honor at my wedding. She's the one who told me I should marry your father, even when my own mother was telling me not to. Sylvia had never heard the name. What happened, Mom? Cancer. Very fast. I got the phone call on a Tuesday, and she was gone by the weekend. I named you after her. In a way. What? Your middle name. Sylvia Elaine. Eleanor's middle name was Elaine. I never told you because I didn't know how to talk about her without crying for about 30 years. And then I forgot to tell you, and then it felt too late. Sylvia had carried half of Eleanor's name for 44 years and never known. That was conversation 2. The week after, Sylvia and Margaret were running an errand together. The pharmacy, then the grocery store, then home. Sylvia was driving. Margaret was in the passenger seat with her purse in her lap. Sylvia waited until they were on the long, flat stretch of road where there was nothing to look at. Mom, what did your work mean to you beyond the paycheck? Margaret didn't answer for a long time. Sylvia thought maybe she hadn't heard. Then Margaret said, I was the person they came to. What do you mean? At the bank. I worked there for 26 years. I was a teller. Then I was head teller. Then I trained the new tellers. The young women, when they had a hard customer or when they made a mistake and were terrified to tell the manager they came to my window, I would handle it. I would talk them through it. I had a drawer with tissues in it for the ones who cried. I never told the manager about any of it. I never knew that, Mom. I don't know if I told anyone, but that was the part of the job I cared about. Your father would ask me about my day and I would say, oh, it was fine, we were busy. But what I really did all day was take care of those girls. I was good at it. I was very, very good at it. Sylvia looked over at her mother. The woman she had known her whole life as quiet, soft-spoken, the one who let her father do the talking. 26 years of being the woman that 20 other women came to when they needed somebody. She had never seen that woman. That woman had walked in the door at 6 o'clock and put on an apron and asked about Sylvia's homework. "Mom, I wish I had known her." "I know, honey. I wish you had too." That was conversation 3. It was a warm evening in the 4th week. Sylvia and Margaret were sitting on the back porch. There was iced tea on the small table between them. The crickets were starting up. "Mom, tell me about a decision you're most proud of," Margaret thought. She rocked once in her chair. 1978. What happened in 1978? You were 6, David was 4, your father was offered a promotion, a big one. It would have meant moving us to Houston. More money. A bigger house. Your father wanted it. He was practically packed. "I don't remember any of this." "You wouldn't. We didn't tell you. I didn't want it." I had Eleanor's grave 40 minutes from our front door. I had my mother. I had the church I'd been going to since I was a girl. I had the kitchen window. And I had a feeling that if we moved, I would lose something I couldn't name. "What did you do?" "I told your father no. It was the hardest conversation of our marriage. He didn't speak to me for 3 days. And then on the 4th day, he came into the kitchen and he kissed the top of my head and he said, okay. And he turned the promotion down. He never brought it up again. Not once. For 46 years. Mom, you and David grew up here because I said no. You're friends. Your school. The man you married, you met him at the high school you went to. In the town you grew up in. None of it would have existed if I had said yes to Houston. I have thought about that decision for 48 years. It is the one I am most proud of. Sylvia could not speak for a minute. She had spent 44 years thinking her life had simply happened to her. Her town, her marriage, her children, her whole architecture. It had been chosen by a 32-year-old woman who saw a fork in her road and did not take the easier one. That was conversation 4. It was a quiet weekday afternoon, 10 days before the move. Margaret had made tea. Sylvia had brought over a small plate of cookies from the bakery. They sat at the kitchen table. The radio was off. Sylvia could hear the clock above the stove. Mom, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to do? And how did you do it? Margaret took a long time, long enough that Sylvia almost started to say something else, just to fill the silence. She made herself wait. Finally, Margaret said, I lost a baby. Sylvia looked up. Between you and David, I was 4 months along. It was a girl. We were going to call her Anne. I lost her in February of 1975. Your father took the day off work. Just one day, because that's what people did then. I went back to making your lunch the next morning. You were 3. You didn't know. Mom, I never told you. I never told anyone except my mother and your father. We didn't talk about that kind of thing. I didn't know I was allowed to, so I didn't. How did you do it? I made your lunch. I made David eventually. I opened the kitchen window every morning. I went to the bank. I came home. I lived through it the way women lived through everything in those days, by not stopping. Sylvia put her hand on top of Margaret's. There's something I've wondered my whole life, Mom. Why every February you got so quiet. Every single February. I used to think it was the weather. It wasn't the weather, sweetie. I know that now. That was conversation 5. The night before the move, Margaret's bags were packed. 2 suitcases by the front door. The framed photograph of Sylvia's father, wrapped in a sweater so the glass wouldn't crack. Sylvia sat down on the edge of Margaret's bed. Margaret was already in her nightgown, sitting up against the pillows. Her hair was down. She looked younger somehow, in the lamplight. Mom, last one. If there's one thing you want me to remember, what would it be? Margaret didn't think about it. She had the answer ready. That I saw you, the whole time. Every minute, I saw you. Sylvia wrote it down on the inside cover of the notebook she had been carrying for 6 weeks. That I saw you, the whole time. Every minute I saw you. She closed the notebook. She kissed her mother's forehead. She turned off the lamp. That was conversation 6. The move happened the next morning at 10 o'clock. David drove. Margaret sat in the passenger seat with her purse in her lap, the way she had sat in Sylvia's car the day they ran the errand. Sylvia followed in her own car with the suitcases. The intake took an hour and a half. The forms, the bracelet, the walk down the hallway. Sylvia unpacked the photograph of her father onto the dresser in Margaret's new room. She straightened it twice. She set out the slippers. She put the green photo album on the nightstand. Margaret sat in the chair by the window. The drive home was quiet. David's hand reached across the console at one point and rested on Sylvia's briefly, the way their father used to do when their mother had cried in the front seat of the car. Neither of them said anything. That night, Sylvia sat on the couch in her own living room with her own husband asleep in the next room, and she opened the notebook. She read the 6 answers back to herself. The kitchen window, Eleanor, the drawer with the tissues, the day Margaret said no to Houston, the February she carried alone, that I saw you, 6 answers, 1 notebook. 44 years of a mother she had not fully met, finally meeting her in the last 6 weeks before the doors closed. The woman who answered those 6 questions was not the same woman who would be in that room a year from now. Sylvia knew that. She had known it the whole time. But she had asked, and because she had asked, she had the answers. They were saved. They were hers. They were the family's now. They would be her own daughters someday when her own daughter was old enough to want them. That is what the window is for. If you are sitting with the decision you know is coming, even one you have not said out loud yet, you have a window. You don't know how long it is. Use it. This is what emotional time blindness does. It tells you there is more time. It tells you the version of her that you have right now is the version you will always have. It is wrong. It has always been wrong. The cost of believing it is the cost of arriving at a doorway with all of your questions still inside you. Don't ask these 6 questions because you are afraid of losing your mom. Ask them because you love her, because you want to know who she was when she was the one telling the story, because the woman in front of you right now has lived an entire life you only know the outline of, and she has been waiting quietly for you to ask about the inside of it. She has been opening the window every morning. You just have to ask her why. I made you a free guide. 50 questions to ask your parent in the weeks before a transition like this one. The conversation starter I wish I'd had with my own mother. Many of the questions Sylvia used with Margaret are in this guide. The link is in the description. It is free. You can have it on your phone before you finish this video. Use it while you still have her version of yes. This is Stories of Connection. Stories about family, about time passing faster than we expect, about the questions we still have time to ask. Until then, don't wait.